Good evening and welcome to the Trucker Talk Network. You got Big Mike here with you, and tonight we're going to discuss autonomous vehicles. That's autonomous cars, autonomous trucks, buses, planes, automobiles. How does that go? You're kind of your John Candy host here tonight. So, what do you all think about autonomous vehicles? Um, Me personally, I do see it becoming reality in a very near future. I'm a little more pessimistic as far as the time frame of uh, 10, 15, maybe at tops 20 years. And I'll quantify that in a little bit because of my ideas and thinking and so forth. But when I look at this, what bothers me is puts me out of business, puts the taxi driver out of business, puts uh, people will technically lose some freedoms in life because of autonomous vehicles too. Government could very easily enact a law that states that no human can drive a car. What if that happens? Now your life is on the line with a robot. And just think, your 6,000 pound car going down the highway one way, 80,000 pound plus truck coming down the highway the other way, computers running it. Doesn't that sound fun? Yeah, it's scary enough with the big truck coming at you down the highway as it is, isn't it? I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Just doesn't sound right, does it? No, it doesn't. But I do see some very good improvements in technology. Not that I'm all about technology and so forth, but I do see some advantages of having the autonomous aspect. You look at a lot of your train yards for where they do switching of trains and building of trains and things like that. They do use a lot of autonomous or remote controlled locomotives to operate their switch yards for building trains and whatnot. But that is a closed environment. None of those trains will end up on the main line. They're all on side tracks as far as building trains go. So they've taken in security precautions to help prevent any accident of that sort. But we've got, you get out in LA, you've got 8 lanes of traffic one way. 8 lanes one way. So that's 16 lanes of traffic going east west out in LA. So what happens there when the robot decides it needs to get off? It's in the very left-hand lane, and that exit that he needs to get off on is within a mile. And you've got gridlock autonomous vehicles. How's that going to work? Well, that's where the 5G comes into play, or so they say. And this is where I have a tendency to disagree with how the technology is going to work and so forth. 5G is a promising technology to expand out how the networks are and whatnot, but cellular coverage has, even at the 5G aspect, has severe limitations. Doesn't stretch out as far as what a 4G network is. And I don't know about any of you people out there or whatnot. I got a 5G phone, just a Motorola phone, nothing special. But I drive semi for a living, and I've had 2 places that I've had 5G service. And I have one of the major 3 carriers for cell service. Uh, I'm not going to advertise for them, but they were part of Ma Bell at one time, so that should give you guys all the answer on that. Um, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, they should have perfected the cell phones that we had already with the 4G. They were getting somewhere with us. But now they're making these changes because, technology, it's going to be so much better. Well, is it going to be so much better? We already deal with people hacking bank accounts. We already deal with people hacking cell phones and so forth. What's going to happen when they start hacking into the 5G networks and cars are on these 5G networks? Or your kids are being hauled around on a school bus, an autonomous school bus. Easy way for some sicko to abduct a a bus load of kids. Nobody's thinking of that stuff. Oh, it can't happen. Mike, it can't happen. You're just so full of it. It happens already, people. It already happens. There's no getting around it. These banks that are getting hacked, they have more sophisticated hardware and software within their systems, and they still get hacked. So when they say they can't be hacked, bunk. It's a network. That is one of the flaws of a network, is there's many ways to get into it. And our current protocols for internet and so forth have loopholes that were put into them for a reason, for communications. And that's why we've got these issues. That's why the hackers use the exploits. That's why people have lost millions, if not billions of dollars on an annual basis, is because of this. There was a forethought that wasn't thought of back when the internet was developed. So, that's why I say we're looking at a good part of 15 to 20 years myself. I've got people and friends that think 5 years, 10 years, and I very well could be wrong. Maybe there'll be the next thing. I brought up under discussion today with a friend of mine while I'm sitting here in the hospital, and we were kind of on this subject. And I said, there's one thing that could actually cement it if they worked it together. And he asked me, what's that? I said, well, Elon Musk with Starlink satellite service. He's putting 28,000 satellites into orbit. Now you put that in conjunction with the 5G service. Now you have something. Doesn't mean it won't have its vulnerabilities as far as hacking and stuff like that. But by putting the two together and whatnot, it will make a stronger infrastructure. See, that's the other problem that we have within our infrastructure today as it is. Our road system itself is not conducive for a totally autonomous system as it is. There's a lot of changes that would have to actually be made for this to honestly work. You couldn't use cloverleaf on all this stuff. I take that back. Might actually work pretty good in Minneapolis because then they would be controlling the speed of the vehicles coming in and out of the cloverleaf. So I digress. That might work actually pretty good there in that hellhole on 694, 494. It's one of the least cities that I like to drive in this country. I'd rather drive in LA over Minneapolis, St. Paul. My opinion. But so if you have any insights or ideas regarding this topic, or know some information I don't, because I don't know everything. I do a lot of reading on things, checking articles and so forth, and where things are going. It makes sense to me. One of the things with it is, especially that would tie in with it all, is the formation of going into the electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles, I do feel have a place. Do I want one? No. Do I feel there's issues with them? Yes. And I'm sorry, but the government doesn't need to be subsidizing charging stations for people either. But I do see absolute advantages of electric vehicles in many situations. Somebody that lives in a major city, If your commute's maybe 20 miles one way to work and 20 miles back, plug it into your 110 at night. There you go. You just charged up your car for a few bucks that night. No big deal. But you're probably going to end up finding out that once everything turns to electric, your electric's going to get a lot more expensive. How are we going to charge all this stuff, people? How are we going? We can't keep the lights on in Texas or California or New York when it gets hot or cold. How are we going to keep all this, the lights on everywhere in the country when they keep shutting down power plants? No more coal, no more nuclear. Well, I'm sorry. Nuclear has actually been proven to be the safest that's out there. Coal, the second safest. But but yet you look at wind tower, the longevity of that stuff, it's not there. By the time that wind turbine is wore out, it 9 out of 10 times it does not even reach that 25-year mark. And if it does reach that 25-year mark, the amount of maintenance or repairs that they've had to do to it has cost just as much as putting in a new wind turbine. And if you think I'm full of it, Truckee, California. California has a couple of abandoned wind farms along the mountain range out there. They've been abandoned for years. Years they've been abandoned there. Why? Got in disrepair, electricity started dropping as far as output, the electric company went bankrupt. And there was no money there to take it down. So now you got a blight in the sky sitting in the mountain range of Truckee, California. Yeah, isn't that just sweet? Very beautiful area, just now looks like a damn airplane sticking ass backwards in the hillside. So, what is your choice? Oh, and solar. It's a little cloudy in South Dakota all day today. We might have had maybe an hour of actual sunshine to generate power. A little hard to charge batteries with that. Yeah. So these are all things that you got to think about when you're starting with autonomous, electric, and roadways, infrastructure of cellular and satellite and so forth. There's so many things that have to work together and be willing to work together. See, that's the other thing too. Cell phone companies don't like to work with others. They got a monopoly. And people will ask me, well, how is it that they have a monopoly? Who do they compete with? Landline's no competition anymore. It's just amongst themselves. And really, as far as, we used to have at least a half a dozen to 8 major carriers across the country. We're down to 3. 3 carriers. So they're going to dictate and profit off of you no matter what. And why will they be able to do that? Because the government will write the regulations so they can. But it's government's job, per the Constitution, to provide infrastructure and security of our borders. So just think of that. May you all have a good evening, good night, and God bless.